All right, everyone get ready, because today we are going deep, deep, deep into a whole bunch of industry secrets.
Yeah, like juicy bits of information that could totally change how you see the world.
Oh, yeah, and maybe even, like help you outsmart it a
Yeah,
little.
exactly. Like think of it as a crash course,
Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes knowledge straight from this BuzzFeed article called Save Yourself the Money. 22 industry secrets that the general public probably doesn't know about,
But totally should.
but totally should.
Okay, so our
To give
matters.
you the intel that will have you booking flights like a pro, questioning everything you see on screen.
And maybe even raising an eyebrow at that, like perfectly made hotel bed.
Right.
Okay, ready to unlock these secrets.
Let's get started.
All right, first up, air travel. I'm sure we've all been tempted to, stretch the truth a little when dealing with airline agents,
Oh, yeah.
especially after a frustrating delay.
After a delay, for sure.
Right.
But before you go making up that sob story about missing, some once-in-a-lifetime event.
Oh, you should know that everything you tell an airline reservation agent is logged in your itinerary.
Hmm.
Every little white lie, every exaggerated inconvenience.
Really?
It's all there for any future agent to see.
So it's all connected.
It's a little unsettling.
It is. It makes you think twice about, trying to game the system.
Right. Like, is this level of tracking really necessary?
It's a good question. What do you think?
Well, the airlines would probably say it's, for accurate record keeping and providing consistent service.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, but it does kind of raise concerns about privacy, and how those records could be used in ways that we might not expect.
That's true. You never know.
You don't. So yeah, honesty is truly the best policy when it comes to airlines.
Noted. All right, let's switch gears from the skies to the silver screen.
Ooh, Hollywood.
Yeah, we all love to get lost in, those big visual spectacles of a Hollywood movie. But what if I told you that a lot of what we see is more illusion than reality?
Oh yeah, definitely. While those epic explosions and spaceship battles are super impressive,
They're awesome.
they're awesome, but it's really the subtler effects that are truly mind-blowing.
Like what?
Like, surprising amount of work goes into digitally erasing blemishes, smoothing wrinkles, and even de-aging actors.
Wow. So it's not just about creating like fantastical worlds, but also these flawless, ageless versions of people.
Exactly. And it does raise some questions about those unrealistic beauty standards that the media kind of perpetuates.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the illusion, but when we understand the extent of those digital manipulations, I think we can become more critical viewers and challenge those unattainable ideals.
It reminds us to be mindful of, the impact these images can have on our own self-perception.
Right.
And to strive for more realistic representations of beauty.
Definitely.
Okay. From the glamour of Hollywood, let's check into this slightly less glamorous but equally intriguing world of hotels.
Right.
Now, I think we all appreciate, walking into a spotless hotel room.
Oh, for sure.
But have you ever considered what goes into creating that pristine environment?
It's easy to take it for granted, right?
Totally.
But imagine cleaning 10 to 13 rooms
Wow.
in just 30 to 45 minutes.
Oh, my God.
That's what many hotel housekeepers have to do.
That's a lot to cram into such a short amount of time. Makes you wonder if corners have to be cut.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they sometimes are.
Really?
Yeah, maybe the bathroom gets a quick wipe down instead of, a deep clean.
Hmm.
Or, those seemingly fresh sheets might not actually have been laundered.
Okay, now that is something I hadn't considered. It makes you question everything about hotel cleanliness.
It does. And it also kind of highlights, the difficult working conditions many housekeepers face.
Yeah.
They're under a ton of pressure to meet unrealistic time constraints, which can impact the quality of their work and, their own well-being, too.
Absolutely. So it begs the question, should we be more understanding of those limitations, or are hotels obligated to provide enough time for, thorough cleaning?
Yeah, it's a tricky balance between, guest expectations and the well-being of the staff.
For sure.
It's definitely something to think about. Greater transparency about cleaning procedures and a fairer workload, for housekeepers could really help address this issue.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, let's shift gears from hotels to an industry that can feel just as mysterious. The lumber industry.
Okay.
It turns out the price of that wooden 2x4 isn't always dictated by simple supply and demand.
It's true. There's more to it.
What's going on?
Well, it's a complex system influenced by government regulations, strategic shutdowns, and, to be honest, a bit of market manipulation.
Market manipulation.
Yeah, it all starts with those government tariffs on Canadian lumber.
Okay.
These tariffs are meant to, protect the American lumber industry,
Sure.
but they can also create a ripple effect impacting consumers.
So explain how that works. How do tariffs on Canadian lumber lead to higher prices for everyone?
Okay, so basically when the price of Canadian lumber drops below a certain point, tariffs kick in, making it more expensive to import. This gives American lumber mills an advantage, and sometimes they exploit that advantage by strategically shutting down operations, which creates an artificial shortage.
So they're intentionally creating a shortage to drive up prices, even though there's plenty of wood available. That seems unfair.
It does. It raises some ethical questions about market manipulation and, its impact on affordability because the higher cost of lumber gets passed down.
To the consumer.
Yeah, to the consumer, leading to increased prices for everything, from the pallets used to transport goods to the houses we live in.
Wow. So we're all paying the price for this lumber game, whether we realize it or not.
It is a good reminder to be aware of those behind-the-scenes forces that influence pricing.
It makes you think, okay, let's move on from complex systems and talk about something we all enjoy: food.
Okay, sounds good.
Even in the world of fast food, there are some surprises to be found. Let's start with Wendy's.
Wendy's, okay.
It might not be the first name that comes to mind when you think of quality ingredients, but they actually have some surprisingly high standards.
Really? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, their beef is never frozen, which is rare in the fast food world.
Huh.
They also have strict quality control measures for their produce and reject anything that's expired off batch or even packed incorrectly.
Wow, that's impressive. It shows that assumptions can be misleading
Exactly.
and that fast food doesn't always equal low quality.
Sometimes it's better than you think, right?
Right. But let's not get too carried away with food myths.
Okay, like what?
Take, for instance, the carefully curated image of all those different milk brands.
Milk brands. Okay.
The truth is, all milk comes from the same giant tank at the processing plant.
All
They
right.
just slap on different branding before sending it out to stores.
So are we really tasting a difference, or are we just swayed by marketing?
It makes you wonder how much of our perception is influenced by packaging and branding, doesn't it?
It definitely makes me think twice about, those premium prices for fancy milk.
Exactly. Being a savvy consumer means questioning those assumptions and looking beyond the surface.
Well said. Now let's shift gears again and dive into the world of finance. Have you ever felt like stock market advice is a bit like reading your horoscope?
Oh yeah, you're not alone. If financial advisors really knew which stocks were going to skyrocket, they wouldn't be sharing those secrets.
Right. So is it all just educated guesswork? How are we supposed to make informed investment decisions when it feels so unpredictable?
That's the challenge. The market is complex, and while there are strategies to mitigate risk, nobody has a crystal ball.
Yeah.
It's important to understand your own risk tolerance, do your research, and, consider diversifying your portfolio.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket and be wary of anyone claiming to have all the answers. Good advice.
Yeah, and speaking of tricky tactics, let's talk about car financing.
All right.
Dealerships often use this sneaky trick to get more money out of buyers.
What do you mean?
They'll mark up the interest rate on your financing unless you specifically ask for the best rate you qualify for.
Wait, so they can just inflate the interest rate without telling you? That doesn't seem right.
Yeah, it's a tactic that preys on people's unfamiliarity with the financing process. They'll present you with a rate, and if you don't question it, they're happy to pocket the extra profit.
So the key takeaway here is to be informed and proactive.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Ask for the best rate you qualify for, and be prepared to walk away if they're not willing to give you a fair deal.
That's great advice. It seems like the recurring theme here is to be an informed and empowered consumer, no matter what industry we're dealing with.
You got it. Knowledge is power. The more we understand how these systems work, the better equipped we are to navigate them effectively and advocate for fairer practices.
Absolutely. Well, we've uncovered quite a few secrets already, and there are plenty more to come. Join us in part 2 of this deep dive as we continue to explore these hidden truths behind everyday experiences.
We'll be back with even more insightful information that'll make you question everything you thought you knew. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into industry secrets.
Yeah, we're peeling back the layers of everyday experiences and revealing the hidden truths underneath.
And in this part, we're going to tackle some intriguing insights that might just make you rethink your phone, your next cocktail order, and even the concept of eco-friendly packaging.
All right, I'm all ears. Let's start with those little bars on our phones. that supposedly tell us how strong our signal is.
Right.
I always thought those are pretty straightforward, but it sounds like there's more to the story.
You're right there. Those bars are more like a leftover from the analog phone days than an accurate signal strength indicator.
Wait, so you're saying they don't actually mean anything?
Pretty much,
Then
yeah.
what is the point of even having them?
Well, each phone manufacturer has their own, like, secret formula for deciding what those bars represent, and it can even change with software updates.
Oh, wow.
The truth is those bars are a huge oversimplification of the complex network technology, behind 4G and 5G.
So they're basically giving us a false sense of security about our connection.
In a way, yes, it's a good reminder that appearances can be deceiving even in the tech world.
Okay, let's move from phone signals to something a little more tangible. Cocktails.
Okay.
Ever been impressed by a bartender's ability to whip up one of those elaborate multi-ingredient drinks?
It's like they have a whole encyclopedia of cocktail recipes in their heads.
Get ready for this. Often those bartenders are relying on the same tool we all use to answer life's questions, Google.
Exactly, when faced with a drink order that's a little outside their usual routine,
Yeah,
they'll discreetly consult Google to find the recipe.
no way.
They might slip away to the back or sneak a peek at their phone behind the bar.
So much for that image of the all-knowing mixologist. But it is kind of humanizing, though, don't you think?
Totally. It reminds us that even experts need help sometimes.
Absolutely. Speaking of tools, let's talk about one that's often used to justify a higher price, fancy packaging.
Okay.
We've all seen those products, marketed as eco-friendly or premium because of their special packaging. But what's the reality?
The reality is often much less glamorous. Sometimes those eco-friendly packages actually create double the waste.
How is that possible?
Well, the products are shipped from overseas in standard plastic packaging,
Okay.
then removed and repackaged in that fancier, supposedly eco-friendly packaging before they hit store shelves.
So we're basically paying a premium for packaging that might not be as environmentally friendly as it seems.
It raises some questions about greenwashing, and the need for more transparency and labeling.
Yeah, are we really reducing waste, or are we just shifting it around?
Exactly. Genuine sustainability needs a more systemic approach than just fancy packaging.
That's for sure. And speaking of inflated costs, disguised as something beneficial,
Ooh, interesting.
let's talk about healthcare equipment in the U.S.
Okay, that's a big one.
It's a topic that's close to home for so many people.
It is, and it turns out the cost of healthcare equipment is often massively inflated here in the U.S. compared to other countries.
Really? Like, how much are we talking?
Like, for instance, the batteries used in those little blood pressure carts in hospitals.
Yeah.
Those can cost hundreds of dollars to replace.
Hundreds of dollars for batteries. That's crazy.
It is, and here's the kicker. Those batteries are practically identical to the ones you can buy at a sporting goods store for like a fraction of the price.
So why the huge difference?
It boils down to a lack of price transparency and regulation in our healthcare system. Manufacturers know they can charge these high prices, and patients often have no other choice but to pay.
Tough reality.
It's a stark reminder of how profit-driven the healthcare industry can be and how vulnerable patients are within that system.
Okay, let's switch gears from healthcare to a topic that affects pretty much everyone who shops online.
Online shopping, what about it?
Shipping, we've all seen those fragile stickers slapped on packages, hoping they'll encourage gentle handling. But does that really make a difference?
It's a nice thought, but those fragile stickers might actually be doing more harm than good.
Really, how so?
Well, package handlers often have to process so many shipments so quickly,
Right.
and sometimes those fragile packages actually end up getting tossed around even more.
So you're saying marking a package as fragile could make it more likely to get damaged?
It does seem counterintuitive, right? But it just highlights the disconnect between our intentions and, the reality of how things work in a fast-paced industry.
So is there any way to make sure that our delicate items are actually handled with care?
It's a tough challenge, but I think it needs some creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Maybe a system that prioritizes careful handling over speed, or even using technology to track and monitor packages more closely.
Those are some interesting ideas. Right? For our final secret in this segment, we're going to shift to something a bit more serious and thought-provoking.
Okay, I'm listening.
It comes from a pharmacy worker who sees firsthand the struggles people face when they can't afford their medication.
That's a reality that often goes unseen, but it has a huge impact on so many lives.
Absolutely.
This worker said they get calls every day from patients desperately trying to make their medications last longer
Wow.
because they can't afford to refill them.
That's heartbreaking. You would think that in a country like the U.S., Access to essential medication wouldn't be such a struggle.
Yeah.
You would think so, but it's a stark reminder that access to affordable health care is a basic human right.
Yeah.
And we still have a long way to go in making sure that right is a reality for everyone.
Well said. This segment has been a real roller coaster of emotions, but as you said earlier, knowledge is power, and even these tough truths are important to face head on.
You're right. And in our final segment, we'll wrap up this exploration of industry secrets and leave you with some key takeaways and some things to think about.
Sounds good. We'll be right back. Okay, and we're back for our final part of this deep dive into industry secrets. It's been quite a journey so far.
It has. We've gone from Hollywood's subtle manipulations to the hidden cost of healthcare to those unexpected truths about everyday things.
We learned about airline tracking the reality of hotel cleaning and how tariffs and market manipulation affect the lumber industry.
Right. We even dove into the surprising standards of some fast food chains and how much branding influences us, and of course those ethical challenges around healthcare costs.
Yeah, and access to medication. It's been a ton of information. But the big question is, what does it all mean? What are those key takeaways we can use in our own lives?
I think the biggest takeaway is being a critical thinker. We're always bombarded with information, so it's easy to just take things at face value.
True.
But when we start questioning things and digging deeper and looking for different perspectives, we can understand the world a little better.
Yeah, we need to be smart about the information we consume, especially with social media and all the targeted ads out there.
Absolutely. Another takeaway is that knowledge is power. The more we know about how these systems work, the better we can navigate them and even advocate for change.
It's easy to feel powerless with these big systems, but knowledge helps us make informed choices, hold people accountable, and push for more transparency.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. Now that you know these secrets, how will you use this knowledge to navigate the world differently?
Will we be more skeptical of marketing or better negotiators? Or even more mindful of our purchases?
Right. Will we speak up for better practices in those industries that affect our lives?
These are all things to consider. We hope this deep dive made you curious, challenged your assumptions, and empowered you to be a more informed citizen.
Remember, there are tons of other industry secrets out there. Keep exploring, keep learning, and share what you learn with others.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed our exploration of industry secrets, and we'll see you next time for another journey into those hidden truths. Thanks for listening.